handling sales objections in high-ticket sales / remote closing before they even happen. I'm sure you've seen sales guys talk about that if for whatever reason you get any objections, then you did the discovery phase wrong, which is essentially just gathering information throughout the call to make sure that you have everything you need to be able to close them. And if you do that correctly, you won't get objections, which is false. I will tell you here, first and foremost, after having taken thousands of sales calls in my life, regardless of how good you do the discovery phase, some people will have a higher action threshold, which basically means the amount of energy or convincing you have to kind of put into them for them to be able to purchase that. And some people, regardless of whatever you do, will and simply put never will close on that first introductory call that you have with them. However, there is some merit to this sentiment in the sense that if you do the discovery phase right, you can essentially neutralize any objections that you would get later on, or realistically, any objections that are kind of your fault for not having gathered that information prior that you would need to have closed that person as long as they're a good fit. And so at that point, if they for whatever reason don't feel comfortable or confident, then they'll just say they don't have X that you would have had to have known and required from them, like, oh, you didn't know like how much money they were making, or you didn't know their time frame. And so they're able to hit you with something like, I don't know if I can afford this, and then you ask them how much money are you making, and then they're not obviously going to tell you that because they don't feel comfortable enough like closing on the call. Or if for the time frame you didn't get the time frame, and then they all of a sudden said that they're 3 months out from doing this, and then you try to like whittle it down, but you can't really do that because it'll bring up XYZ reasons for why they have to wait. So with that being said, you can get a lot of those issues out of the way prior to even going into the pitch. And with doing that, then essentially any objection that you get past beyond that is essentially going to be malarkey through and through. And so all you have to do to be able to handle that is have like a head on your shoulders and think to yourself, why is what they're telling me not making sense in the sense that I can help them and they should get started? So how do I talk them out of talking themselves out of not getting what they hopped on the call because they believed could help them, and get that to them so that they can get helped? And so I've designed my own process after going through all of those calls for essentially making sure that I never realistically get any true objections and do my job correctly. And so every type of sales guru I feel like has like their own name for it, whether it's like their name of their like insane script that has like 60+% close rate, like stuff like that. For me personally, I call it building the box, because I am essentially building, as long as I get every piece of information I need to be able to close them, I build this box around them so there's no escape. Granted, I obviously don't force them to close, but if they want to get out of the box tops open. They can hop out whenever they want. They just have to explicitly say, no, Joshua, I will not be paying you money today, or no, I do not want to get started. That's all they have to do, but I'm not going to take anything less than that, simply put, because if we've gotten to that point in the call, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I can help them. They need that help, considering they were on that call and divulged all the information that I need to be able to close them, that makes them a good fit for what it is that I want to give to them. With that aside, let's get straight into it. And so right off the rip, you're going to need to know what exactly you need to know about them to be able to close them, so that you can make sure that you get no objections about that. What we're going to need to know is their income / investment power. We're going to need to know their time frame for when they were trying to do this. We're going to need to know the decision-making capabilities that they have within their company, and we're going to also need to know their why, like why they want to do this, what type of outcome they're trying to get to, so we can make sure what it is we're selling is going to be the bridge that gaps them over to it. For this demonstration, going through building the box, I'm going to be using Closify, considering I'm kind of fond of it, probably taken like multi-thousand calls for it at this point, as well as, I helped co-found it and everything. The first thing I do on these remote sales calls for Closify is going to be going through and essentially just reconfirming what they put in the questionnaire. When individuals would like to book a call with us and inquire about our services, they have to go through a Calendly questionnaire where they fill out some basic stuff, like biz income, the time frame that they're looking to be successful at, whether or not they're a decision maker, fairly standard issue things with if you look at any other Calendly or any other calendar system for any businesses, it just gives us the general information about the company so that we know whether or not that's going to be a good candidate, and if it's very, very unqualified, cancel the call, let them know why we canceled it so that we can save both of our times. And reconfirming that is very huge in the sense that not only do you get them to explicitly state all of those things again for you to hear and them to know that you know, but also you'd be really surprised how many people just, for whatever reason, just try to lie on those just so that they can get on the call. It's honestly very comical, but getting them to restate all of those pieces of information and driving those homes basically evens the playing field and lets them know that you know that, so they're not gonna be able to like weasel their way out or kind of like fib about certain things when it comes down to taking action on what it is that you're selling them. And so going a bit more in depth on the question, that's basically to say like how much money are you making per month, since that is a very, very, very important question to be able to get out of the way and get clarified before moving into the more so the actual closing phase, since considering you've got to make sure that they can even afford it and that they would be able to be successful with what it is that you're selling them, since they probably have to be making a certain amount of money. One of the ways that I like to clarify that in a very almost like double speak kind of way, not necessarily asking them directly like, hey, how much money do you make, is I will go and ask them like, how much money do you want to be making in maybe like 3 to 6 months time, maybe by next business quarter, and get them to say exactly kind of like how much MRR they want to be at, or monthly recurring revenue. And then once they say that, I'll be like, okay, cool, 100%. Now, what type of gap are we trying to bridge to get there, right? Putting me on their side, and like it's us against that, as in we're trying to achieve that and we need to go do that. And then from there clarify that like, oh, I was just meaning like kind of how much are you guys making in like MRR right now, if you don't mind me asking. And then it's a very almost not necessarily roundabout way, but it's a way of asking explicitly how much are you making without making them feel like we're asking them that, because we're putting ourselves on a team and we want to help them get to this goal. And so we got to know, like, where are we starting off with? Like, what do we have to work with here, right? Because at the end of the day, when you're on these calls, you should be almost like a doctor prescribing, like, what exactly you need. Well, they would need to be able to cure their illness, or being poor or not as rich as they want to be. And so you need to feel comfortable with asking that. And if they by chance get a little jaded, or they're like, I don't really feel like answering that or whatever, and you can kind of see that you haven't built up enough rapport to be able to go through that and ask that type of question, then what I would do, and I usually do, is I would just say like, oh, no worries. I usually just like asking that question because I like to relate it to a testimonial, and like I'll start listing off some testimonials, like maybe one from like $20,000 to $50,000 we helped with a single closer in a few months' time. One that went from $60,000 to $300,000 per month in as little as 2 months' time, with the addition of 2 sales reps into their business, and single reps being responsible for well over $500,000 closed in about, like, I want to say 4 to 5 months time. And so if you don't mind me asking, like, kind of which area do you fall more so in? Like, with which one of those do you resonate more with? And that could even be a more roundabout way of asking them, like, hey, which one of these people, like, how much per, like, what type of level of MRR are you at based off of these 3 things? Who do you align a bit more with? The I can't afford it objection dies there. Next, I always like to make sure that they essentially agree to get started multiple times throughout the call. And so one of the ways that I'll go about doing this is I'll always mention, usually after that monetary question, is I will ask them, okay, kind of getting down to brass tacks, I could realistically get you some interviews and get you talking with individuals you could potentially hire, since Closify is a hiring platform for sales reps. And I could get you talking with those individuals in the next week's time and scheduling interviews in the next week's to 2 weeks time. And then more so along the lines, getting you like your first hire around 2 weeks, kind of like a month and a half's time. Like, what type of time frame were you looking at for that? Or I'll even like go as far to mention like a testimonial where we were able to get someone like a rep in like 3 days time and have them closing deals in like 2 weeks time. And so I'll ask them like, how soon are you looking to get sales representatives inside of your business? A lot of times at this point, they will say yesterday, or they'll say as soon as possible. And so, especially if they're doing that, then that's even more gas on the fire for why they should pay you today, as long as obviously logistics and everything makes sense, and they should get started and going as fast as possible, and you'll be able to drive this home later on in the call. If for whatever reason they think, oh, I gotta think about it, or like, oh, I gotta go and maybe do this or that, and other things that aren't directly in correlation or wouldn't affect you guys getting started today, so you have to explain to them why that doesn't even make sense in the first place. The second time I do this type of thing generally is going to be right before moving into the demo section of the call, where I actually show them through the SaaS, through the software, and how exactly what it is explicitly that we offer works. And so how I'll frame this is I'll say, look, I'd love to transition this much more so into the demo side of the call. I'd love to walk you through the platform, obviously show you what it is explicitly that you're going to be getting with working with us, show you how we can help based off everything that you've told me, and then from there, I'd obviously love to know if you think that this is something that you see can help yourself, and if you're 100% confident that this would be a perfect fit, obviously love to get you started in going today. If, for whatever reason, you don't feel like it's a perfect fit, no worries. Can definitely give you a few suggestions and point you in the right direction and send you on your merry way. Basically saying, if you don't think for whatever reason that this is a good fit, like you give them an out there and you give them a perceived position of power, but also if you say, yes, this can help me, we are getting started today. And so obviously when that time comes around, if they have some sort of whack objection, whatever, like it's just reefed. But them there agreeing again to get started is going to heighten the possibility of you closing them at that time, because like a lot of you have probably heard of like manifestation, right? And so if you consistently drill home multiple times throughout the call, hey, we're gonna work together, we're gonna get started today, we're gonna make lots of money, and then not only will you guys be making lots of money, but you'll also be able to make money on that call, which is pretty cool, especially with a paid in full. Once I finish with the call, or more so the demo side of the call, then I ask them two questions. One, do you think that this can help you in your business? And then from there, elaborate on anything they might have questions on, or maybe I'll word it a different way and make sure that they're 100% positive that this for sure can help them blow up the top of funnel or bottom like line revenue. And then aside from that, I love this saying, and I feel like I've personally coined this saying in the sales space, but I'll ask them like, do you have any other questions before, getting into logistics, obviously. And the phrase there that I coined is logistics. And I always say that because it's so much better than saying price. Because when they hear price, then all of a sudden, you're over there, they're over here, and you want something from them, and you guys aren't on the same team anymore. And so you can say logistics and say like, I'll just run you through like the logistics that like we got here, right? You're just putting it off away from yourself, right? It's you and them against that. And so also the reason that I asked if they have any questions before getting into that is objection bait. If you have any concerns, all right, you should be listing them now or forever hold your peace. This is the last call essentially for objections, and with getting those minor ones out of the way, it's a lot better than if they happen after you say the price, because objections after you say the price are worth a lot. They're just a lot heavier and a lot stronger than if you actually went through them prior to saying that price. Lastly, I always say the guarantee before price, because just like objections before the price hold a lot less weight than objections after the price, for the guarantee is going to hold a lot more weight before the price rather than after the price. Because if you say the guarantee after the price, it seems like you're trying to make up for the price, and it shouldn't really be what it is, and it's not as valuable as you're making it out to be. So what I always do on the calls is I'll be like, all right, so getting into logistics, this is what you're going to be getting, and it's backed with a guarantee that looks explicitly like this, and walk them through it, and then restating kind of all what you're just getting here, right, and a nice little recoup, getting back into it, recoup is going to look like just, saying just, as in it's not that expensive compared to the value we're providing, X, and this is the price, whether it's 1K, 3K, 5K, 10K, 10% equity in your firstborn child, whatever it is, you say the guarantee prior. And so, with all that out of the way, we now have not only guaranteed that we know everything that we need to know about these individuals prior to even getting into pitching them, so that we know that they're qualified, and we can build a box around them so that they don't get off easy if for whatever reason they want to have any objections. We already know everything that we need to know about them to be able to close them. So anything that they say past it, you literally, like I said, just use your head and have to explain to them why that does not make sense, right? And so with that being said, that is my building the box sales training for how to make sure that you never get any objections. And if you have any other questions kind of for that method or for kind of like how I do that, you can definitely go ahead and check out the free sales guide that I have in the description. I've been pushing that a lot considering I just made a hodgepodge of all the past mentorships and kind of sales resources I had. Already been able to collect a lot of testimonials of people getting opportunities, landing gigs, and making money solely from that free sales guide alone. If you feel like you need more higher end sales trainings, I also have a couple links to different places that are vetted by me and or I have personally hired for Closified before, so definitely go check those out. With that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, an objection-free day.